So we're going to continue in this momentum of understanding that we're getting a little bit of life within the market, right? We're starting to see a decent move, but ultimately the important thing is not to chase, right? And is to realize that step for step, we're playing out different emotions within the markets. And this is where I said specifically yesterday, let's not chase, a pullback is going to happen, right? And all of a sudden we wake up today and we started to see acceleration to the downside. This is where we now look at building positions, okay? Firstly, we started to give good reversal signs, higher highs on many time frames, a lot of RSIs reset, right? So market, the tides are starting to slowly turn, bulls are starting to step back within the market, okay? But it's important, again, not to chase and understand which phase we're in. This last push that we've seen to the upside, specifically with altcoins, for me was a phase one of markets starting to slowly recover, right? Then there is a shakeout disbelief move. And this is what I'm seeing happen right now. We're getting a shakeout. And because there's still uncertainty in the markets, many people will flip bearish pretty quickly, right? No one really trusts any pumps within the market. What we need to get ready for is phase two of this pump. After this disbelief push, we're looking at important levels to be holding that I want to speak about today on Bitcoin, on altcoins. But we have to be ready for the phase two move. Phase two is when we move from disbelief into the hope phase. And this is when the range starts to expand. And by us looking at these positions now, I believe that these entries were more important than the entries that we would have got 2-3 weeks ago before the market started rallying up. Because what you need to do is allow the market to break structure first, and then you are buying the important levels on retests, right? And that's why I truly think that today, and specifically over the next few days in this pullback zone, is the time to build spot trades, is the time to build bots, is the time to build low leverage positions. And I want to go through all of these strategies with you guys, as well as levels within the alts and levels within Bitcoin. We spoke about this pullback. Now it is happening. This is not the time to be scared. This is the time to be confident, to track, okay? And when we are ready for this next trend break, it is time to execute. So guys, no more wasting time. There's a lot to go through. Let's go.
I try and help everyone in my space, and this is what I get. I try and fight the devils, but inside I'm just like 𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗏. Welcome to Sheldon Show.
Yes, fam, how are we all doing? Just going through a couple of the comments here. What's up? I see we're around 55% bullish. Okay, remember, we need to slowly just start getting our heads into redness is when we turn bullish, right? So I think ultimately, if we can just keep training our minds throughout these next couple of days, couple of weeks, but when red days come, I'd like to see 80% bullish, right? Because then what we're doing is we're starting to accustom our brains to when to be bullish, right? To be bullish when things are just pumping. Okay, yes, it is exciting. Okay, we're mainly looking at market structure breaking, okay, because the last 3 months have been the best time to shine. Right now, it's time for the bulls to respond to that as well. Therefore, wait for structure break, right? Wait for retest, and this is where you need to start getting that confidence and that certainty of actually opening positions. Right? This is how we make money back. Okay, it's always for me again. The phase two is the most important for me to be a part of versus the phase one. So I want to go through this with you guys, okay? And let's go through the phases over here, right? So I want to speak around phases. So the first thing we needed to kind of see and wait for Bitcoin was specifically for us to make higher highs, right? And we did that. And I'm not surprised that the market trapped everyone the moment we just started breaking these highs on the left, right? It's a perfect time. And this is why I am bullish, and I've been bullish over the last few days, but specifically for the last 24, 48 hours, I was saying, guys, we need a pullback, right? We need a shakeout. We need these kind of moves. And for me, it was quite not obvious, but a trap was going to come into play. And it's weird how they just send price a little bit higher and they start to trap the market to the downside. Now, again, we need to pay attention to the important things that has happened here, right? Because you need confidence on these pullbacks. This is where you make the money on pullbacks, right? The important thing is not to be on this side of buying. The important thing is to be buying, the key levels on the side over here. Okay, so the main thing that I was looking for was let's just crack this high over here. All right, let's crack the high over here. And what that does is us cracking the high, you got to realize that there is a wall that's been holding Bitcoin all the way since November, right? It's this wall over here. Okay, so this wall is a strong wall that bears are holding within Bitcoin. Okay, they don't want to let go of it. They're protective over it. Okay, and then after this wall, there is another wall. Okay, but the wall is sitting a lot higher. The wall is sitting in this area over here, right? Anywhere up to the 100,000 to the 105,000 over here. So that means when eventually we get through this wall, it very likely will speed up to these areas over here. But nonetheless, the control of the bears right now are controlling this area over here. Okay, and for me, what I'm looking for is I was looking for us to just give us that confirmation into this wall, higher high, right? And for me, what that does is we are eating away this wall every time we get there. Now, not only are we eating away the wall, there is shorters coming in and trying to hold this level. Okay, so you're sitting with tons and tons of shorters that are shorting this period over here and shorting these areas here. I'm on many trading groups, on many things. A lot of people said yesterday, they're shorting, if not getting out, right? Because there is no more certainty. No one's like 100% confidence anymore, okay? But for me, I was like, I agree. I can't sit here and say that we are full bull just yet, right? Let's first break structure, right? Let's start moving through. Let's start breaking key trends. Okay, and that's exactly what we did. We ended up breaking out of this trend. We ended up putting in this higher high over here, and we ended up tapping a higher point of this over here. Perfect time to trap the markets, but perfect time for us to be like, okay, there's actually strength within this move. And we want to pay attention now to where we are looking to buy. Now, I want to speak around the phases, right? There's a couple of emotions that are being played out with the market now. Okay, we've always spoken around these emotional phases. Okay, doesn't matter what time frame you're trading, the phases of the market cycle always starts to play out. We had the very excitement phase over here when things were obviously growing, and then we did go into the red phases over here. We did then have the capitulation, right? Bitcoin dropped all the way to 81,000. We then had the fake bounce and then the drop. This created anger. We then had the low liquidity, the low volume, and this is known as depression phase, right? Everyone's just so wrecked. Okay, they have a little bit of hope left, but the moment that price does nothing for multiple weeks, okay, they kind of lose faith very quickly, and a lot of people exit. And I don't know if you know, within your groups or anyone that you've spoken to in crypto, a lot of people have exited in the last month. Kind of like, you know what, I'm going to the new year, I'm doing something else, right? So the market has always played this very well, okay, and the system works really, really good. Then what we're looking for was out of nowhere, there's no liquidity, right? A pump comes. Right, not only does a pump come, we start to see an altcoin pump too. Okay, and again, not many will believe that, but you got to realize that when we get out of depression phase, we go into something called disbelief, right? The pump that is just not trusted. Okay, and I'm here to say, okay, I agree, we need to be cautious, but we need to realize that this is the pump we should be trusting, right? But we do need to see, okay, confirmation of that. Okay, but if we look at this over here, I'm looking at this as a disbelief pump, right? Not fully believable, anything over here. Okay, so what you'll tend to see with disbelief pumps, and I want to quickly draw the cycle out over here. You got the excitement to the upside, you got the first big drop, you got the big drops, you got these phases over here. Okay, the first one is the disbelief pump. The disbelief pump starts to break structure, starts to break these key trends, these key areas over here. Not many believe it, but ultimately, it's one of the biggest moves we have seen in a while, right? Probably very similar to this fake move that happened over here, okay? Then what happens is because it's disbelief, it's very quick when this starts to drop off over here for people to not kind of trust it, okay? We just starting to get maybe a little bit of, okay, maybe type of thing, but because it doesn't get high enough, right, it's not believable, okay? Then what happens is if we hold certain levels here and we end up breaking, you then get the next part of the pump. And the next part of the pump is to bring hope back to the market, right? That is what it's designed to do, okay? And it's designed to get people to buy in late. Because I spoke about this yesterday and I said, just from moves from altcoins from here to here is up to 200% on some altcoins. Right? So the fact that the market now has to prove itself over 200, 300, 400%, okay, we'll get a lot of people to come in. And then that's very likely when they're going to trap them again. Okay. But the main thing here is whenever you look at pumps, moves to the upside, you will always notice that it had a slowdown first, and then had a small move to the upside, and then you'll notice that we start off slow and then we speed up very quickly, okay? And this is the next phase that I want to pay attention to here, which for me is looking at big supports now, and I'm going to give you guys areas of where we're looking to buy and confirmations and these type of things. But we want to get in for the hope pump. The hope pump looks something like this. Disbelief pump, not truly trusted, amazing, right? What makes people trust, okay, is we break this phase and we push up to the higher areas, right? All of a sudden, hope comes back, Bitcoin's above 100K, people start to get excited, okay, which means that the market has to have a bigger next move to get trust back into the market, right? And when the bigger move comes, then people only start to basically trust and these type of things. And that's why you'll tend to see that when things move slowly, the range expands bigger, right? A little bit later on as the market starts to prove its strength, right? I'm here to say we must pay attention to this early phase right now and not have to wait for us to be up here to believe that the pump is real. Okay, we need to be paying attention to this over here. And that's why for me, it's the most exciting part of entries within any trades is let the token pump first. Let it prove that it's going to break structure, that it might be real this time. Let it go. And we will buy the important levels that we've just broken through. So what I'm looking at next for Bitcoin and for altcoins, okay, is I did speak around this dump yesterday being pretty quick. If it's doing exactly what I'm saying now, right, where we are quickly pulling back, that for me is becoming an exciting part of the market. It means that things are starting to slowly shift differently versus what they were a couple of weeks back. Why? Because you've got to look at the different types of dumps that were happening, right? If you look at the slow grinds to the downside or dumping slowly, that's not good. When we're dumping slowly, bears are in control. But if you look at an uptrend is up, fast dump, up, fast dump, up. Dumps don't last too long. They're quite aggressive. And all they are doing is they are trapping buyers that bought over here, wiping them out, okay, and then continuing very quickly. Those who have a bit of money left will be forced to buy back over here and will be trapped here again, right? That's why uptrends can also be a very tricky market to pay attention to, because if you just time it incorrectly, think about it, if a token's just done 200% to the upside and then wipes out 30% very quickly, right, your mistakes can damage you very fast, right? Literally, those who bought yesterday can be down 10% in a matter of 24 hours, right? And that becomes very hard to stay within the game, okay? So for me, I am firstly happy with the structure break, okay? I need to see a little bit more strength, which I'll go through now over here, but this is where I am looking to buy and build my positions, okay? From here, I'm seeing a strong push up because again, with this wall being hit over here, right, you got to realize at some point we break the wall. And when you break the wall, you get a short squeeze, right, where the next liquidity is sitting, okay? And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for entries that can put me into profits very quickly. And when the rest of the market are trying to get in, I want to be in profits and actually be looking to take some profits specifically with trades, okay? But also to understand my long-term, you know, how trusted is this? Should I be holding them? These type of things. And the big thing that we are going to be sitting with, okay, if this next phase kicks in, is should we offload some long-term over here? All right, we're not down 90% anymore. We're down 30% now. Should we protect some capital if Bitcoin is to go down? Because if we don't get past this level, we can very much come back down. Okay, but these are situations that you deal with when you are in the green, right? When things are basically starting to win. So let's go through Bitcoin over here and the plays. This is what I gave you guys yesterday, okay? And what I spoke about, I gave two zones. I said the first zone was over here, which we hit. And I said there's another zone sitting at the $91,000 zone, okay? This for me is now approaching zones of where I want to buy and open trades. I'm going to be trading very aggressively in this pullback right now in these areas here. Okay, what I'm looking at is my next place for Bitcoin is we're going to drop a little bit lower, okay, anywhere between 90 to 91,000, okay, and then from here a bounce, this, and then something like this. So I think upside or grow to the upside will probably take around 3 to 5 days for us to possibly then be looking at breaking the new highs. Right over here. Right now, it's pullback, first bounce, drop, second one we go through. And these are these W patterns that we speak about many times. So this is the current play that I'm paying attention on Bitcoin, is a push to these zones over here. There's a lot of support sitting in these zones. There's a support trend. There's all the areas we have just broken, right? This is for me where I see buying power and where I see a strong bounce incoming. Then, because there's still seller pressure over here, is why I think we'll have a bounce and then something like this. We're still going to eat away a bit more of the wall, but then we really start expanding to the upside, okay? Now, for me to trigger trades or positions or anything in these zones, I still have the fear of the past. The fear of the past is no pump was trusted, right? None of these things were trusted. None of these things were that. That can still live within you, right? It can still be there. So what I need is I need a bit of certainty. So what I'm looking for here is I literally take a trend line and I track this down, okay? And that will be my trigger. If I have, let's say, me personally, I'm deploying around $300,000, right, on these pullbacks over here, okay? I'm looking at entering around 20% in the green box just to get something nice at a strong level, okay? And the rest will be distributed and entered on the break of the trend once it is confirmed, right? Once we have dropped, what you can see here with the trend line, which is very important. Remember, trend lines give you a little bit of an understanding of timing, okay? So if we look at this over here, and we see that the token was moving to the upside, then it dropped and it's doing this, the trend line is always going to tell you, hey, there's a bit of timing here. Don't wreck yourself in the timing. The market will always give you time to think about the loss or think about the redness, right? It creates doubts. It creates these things that will kind of scare you off. You know what the market's really good at? The market's really good at making you put the worst scenarios in your brain and scaring yourself out. The market doesn't necessarily have to scare you. They know if they put you under a little bit of pressure for a day, 2, 3 days, you're going to scare yourself, right? And that's when you're willing to flake out. And that's why we always say that the money moves from hands, right? It moves from the fear to those who are greedy and understand the game, right? And when they can buy, do you think when the markets are pumping, are you going to let go of your coins? No, you won't, right? But if you're under pressure and underwater and red and you feel depression, it's very likely you're going to let go of your coins. Right? So it becomes a lot easier to buy supply and buy tokens within the market when you put you under that pressure. But the next thing that's also important here, right, is just to understand that it takes a little bit of time before the markets just recover. Okay, so what we are sitting with now is we are sitting a gap from the trend lines, right? Which means that I don't like predicting. Unless I'm buying some long-term things that I'm looking for this, I don't like predicting very much here at all, right? I want it to drop. I got areas of where it can bounce, no problem. Okay, but I'd rather let the short-term market cycle play out. Because if we zoom in to just this leg that has happened over here, right, that looks like a bull market, right? And yes, this has only happened over the last 5 days, but that looks like a bull market. I got to remember that it started off with a disbelief pump. Then there was a hope pump. Then there was more euphoria, right? A lot of excitement over here. So I got to realize that, okay, but the market cycle needs to play out. So what happened? The first drop happened. Complacency. No one believes this drop over here, right? The lower high comes in. That's complacency. Then the drop happens. Guess what's happening now? Denial, right? Denial's all of a sudden kicked in and everyone's starting to deny and start to think, no, it can't be real, type of thing. Then what happens is the bigger move, which then makes people think completely that it's the capitulation, right? The big drop off, okay, get really worried now. Then the bounce happens. Okay, many kind of think that's the bounce, and then that's fake, the anger phase, the depression, and then disbelief, hope, move, right? So why would I waste my ammo over here when I know that the market's got to play a game? The market has to first shake, make you angry, make you depressed, make you give up, right? So that's, for me, again, there's that area there that is key, and there's that area there that is key. And that's what I'm busy doing. Now, again, when it comes to trading, planning of trades will be your #1 tool to having successful trades. The more you plan, the more effort you put into trades, the more successful the trades will be. Okay, so for me, I am planning for that. Okay, so the trend line helps me with that. So what it's telling me now is that I have an idea of where I can dollar cost, okay? And it has a trigger point of when I need to be in positions. Now, why I love buying, let's say, the breakout of depression into disbelief is because the risk is going to be quite low. If this drops like this, does this, does this, does this, does this, that buy going into disbelief gives me a very tight stop loss that my risk is incredibly low, right? It gives me an idea of where to protect myself. And that gives me a 0.3% risk, right? And the upside is just so much more than what you are risking within the token. So by just giving it that little bit more time and that little bit more planning, all I'm doing is reducing risk. Now, if I buy now, okay, knowing that we can come here, what is my risk then? Right? It's literally 10 times more than me being patient for 2 days and waiting for that to be the confirmation break. 10 times more risk. I think we all need to work very hard this year on getting better at handling risk, right? That's a big thing for us to pay attention to is risk, 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 risk. Saving money more than making money. We know we can make money, but saving money is the important thing, okay? So that's my play. My play is if I look at this now and I look at time-wise, I'm looking anywhere up to a day to 2 days of this pullback lasting. Not to say it's just going to pull back for 2 days, but the pull, the chop, and I'd say by end of the week, I do think the market is going to start breaking trend, and I do think by end of next or beginning of next week, we're actually going to start going into the hope phase to the next push to the upside, right? So that's the play. So as we go through alts, I spoke about this yesterday. I see more downside, right? I see that capitulation drop first. Okay, and where I'm looking at is a drop into this trend. Alts have broken trend. Alts have given a higher high. Alts have already started breaking the level that Bitcoin has not broken. Okay, and there's a huge gap from here to the next move to the upside. Therefore, for me, if I time this right, risk low, big opportunity to the upside. So as we go through a bunch of the alts here, right, and I knew this ether break, it nearly started breaking the trend. I knew it was looking kind of fake. Right, look at that, and this is why I didn't chase. Okay, something like ETH comes down to these levels, like I said, 3,100 yesterday, right? From here, that's what I'm looking for. Put a trend line as this comes down. That can be a trigger point over here, but I'm 100% buying these pullbacks. I'm giving myself 2 days to do so, but this is exactly what I'm doing. Now, the next thing you want to kind of look at is what tokens, right? Just look for tokens that are truly on this side of the line. So for example, Solana's been a lagger, but it's a token that I'm building quite a bit of, right? It broke through up over here. I'm seeing a drop to the low 130s. Okay, from here, I am seeing a push up to $200, right? A token I'm paying attention to, right? As I go to AVAX, AVAX also had a strong push to the upside. I see downside. I see down to the mid 13, right? That's my buy. From the next push, I am seeing us going up to $20. I think the next pump could be up to 50 to 70%. Within a bunch of the major alts, right? Yes, we've had some memes pump. I think a lot of these alts are going to give us the opportunity we've been looking for. So again, if I look at pullback, here's Cardano as an example. I'm looking at around another 3 to 5%, right? I'm then trading BIT-funded accounts. Remember, you want a BIT-funded accounts? I'm going to be trading them, guys. We need this pullback to go a little bit more, okay? And I'm going to be opening up BIT-funded trading accounts. Open up, link below in the description. Remember, if you're also looking for bots, we're launching bots tomorrow. We're actually setting them up today. Tomorrow, we have at least 10 bots, very low leverage, with stop losses, very secure, right? It was risk management as we can, right? But no liquidations. I'm not going through that crap again, right? Then we have Bybit as well. If you're looking, a lot of signups on Bybit over here. Links all below in the description. Shout out to Bybit, shout out to Pionex, shout out to BIT-funded. So as we go through here, like here, Doge, right? Doge, I'm looking at buys around the 14-cent mark, right? From here, I'm seeing a push up to the higher areas over here. So the hardest thing today is to set some limit orders to buy a certain percentage on a couple of entries. I'm not entering any leverage, high leverage positions until that trend line is broken in 2 days. Then I'm 20, 30, 40xing, all depending on my level. I'm going full blast, full blast when it comes to those areas over here. Right? What can I buy spot now? What can I slowly laddering in now? Build confidence within the red. Okay, know the areas where to secure and only really commit when the trend lines are broken. Gives you time to restructure a lot of your charts today, go through all of them. And I'm telling you, in the next 2 to 3 days, There's tons of altcoins we are going to be trading. Guys, have a fantastic day. Shorter show today, as we have to be a little bit more patient. Be here tomorrow. Be here on Friday. Okay. What is today? Tuesday, Wednesday. Be here on Friday. And we're going to get a bunch of entries, and we're just going to trade our way up within this market. Have a fantastic day. See you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.